Welcome to Local History, Legends, and Lore. I'm Julie Lugo Cerra, your host, and we have representatives today from the Newton family. Thanks, guys, for coming back.
You're welcome.
Jack Newton. Now, you are the foremost plumber in the area. You're an active community member. Tell me a little bit about what you've been doing in the community and some of the fun you've had.
Well, Culver City has always been an exciting community because there's a lot going on. I mean, from the city activities, but I've been active in the Kiwanis Club in Culver City for many, many years. Active with the chamber and then the chamber boards and the Los Caballeros, and been active in the Masonic Lodge, which is active within Culver City. Working in Culver City, got to know a lot of the people, and it's been exciting. And of course, into the fiestas and the parades and the old cars with my nephew. And it's been exciting. We've lived here 60 years, and it's been a wonderful life. I have to admit that my nephew retired much earlier than I did because I'm still working.
I was going to say, there's something wrong with this picture. So, Steve, now you can call him Uncle Jack.
It's still as old as I am. That's the way it always will be. It's
Yeah.
Uncle Jack and that one out.
I think so. So, and you were the first grandchild,
Yes.
weren't you? Of
Very
this
lucky,
bunch of
very
kids?
spoiled. No brothers or sisters. And you might say, if you could look at some of the old photos, that the homestead would be on Huron in Culver City.
Who is that cute little boy?
That might be somebody I know when he had blonde hair. And you can see what's behind him, as you can see the old wooden spoke wheels. That's on Huron also. And
that was the family home that you loved.
oh yeah, that provided my family when we were younger and bringing up our kids of, when money was tight or something, happened, that we always fell back on Granny's place. And there was always, if the front unit was rented out, then we moved in with her. And very tight, but Jack can tell you when he lived there when he was growing up that it was a two-bedroom. One bedroom was probably smaller than what people call a walk-in closet today. And that everybody lived wherever they could, and everybody was happy. I think my spot was outside in the living room by the heater when I was little. But the big thing is, when I lived there, it had 5 garages. And when we would pay, I think it was $90 rent, and I'd pay my great-grandmother $100 more for the use of all the garages. So,
And what did you have in all the garages?
Well, there was racing motorcycles in the back one, and that was the workshop. There was a washroom, and then there was usually a couple of car projects and a boat in another. So, and then we tore all over her apple trees and cherry trees and different fruit trees that they had for years, and cleaned that out, fenced the backyard for parking spots for future projects. So.
Well, busy hands are happy hands. You must have had the happiest hands in the block, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
That's great. Now, one of the things that I love about Culver City is that it's so amazing that this movie history just kind of touches all of our lives. Most of us had somebody who worked in the movie industry or whatever. But as I recall, you have a great story about your birth that you almost made it into a movie right away. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. This is all hearsay. I wasn't, really.
You don't remember
coherent
firsthand?
Those days, but what the story is in the family was that the Van Johnson was doing the series on the Van Johnson baby movies, and the studios came to Culver Hospital at that time looking for a blonde-haired and blue-eyed boy, and I seemed to be the only person that fit that. And the offers were great from the studios for limousine service, nurse at all times, all these different things, plus pretty good money. And because I was blonde with blue eyes, my mother was very conscious about the possibility of some damage from my eyes or my skin or something like that. And she kind of held them off until she could talk to the doctors about, what their thought was, first child, stuff like that. In the meantime, the studios just went on to the next hospital. So it's a big joke when I'll see that Van Johnson movie or something, I'll start on her, I'll give her a call, and I go, I could have been the guy on Lassie or Ren 1010, who would know? I go, you've basically made me go out and go a different direction. But it's always kind of been a funny story in the family.
That's great. What a beginning. And that beginning was at the community hospital, which was just right down from the Culver Theater, right?
Yes.
The little one with the Spanish tile on the roof, which is still standing so far. That's pretty good. So where did you live in town?
Pardon?
Where did you live in town?
We started on I think Huron, in a little small shack that's still there behind a larger house. There was two small houses on it, I believe, other than Granny's and the homestead. Oh boy.
And who's that?
That's me and my Cub Scout outfit, and probably I'm going to take a guess and say maybe 53 or 54. And my den mother was one of your close friends' mothers, Jimmy Chiardi's mom.
Bertha.
And all the community group, we lived over by the high school then, so I had guys in there. One of the guys I went to school with was named Warburton. His dad was a famous football player that had retired over the years, Cotton Warburton.
Cotton Warburton, yeah. Gary Warburton.
Yeah, Bob Garrett was in it, and I believe he's an entertainer now. We went to high school together, and you know what Jimmy's doing now. And it's just, it was just all the kids within, probably a 10-block radius. And it was a little rough for me. I never went to Boy Scouts. That Cub Scouts really was tough for me, especially the crafts part,
The crafts part. But you went into plumbing, and you did pretty well with that.
Well, the plumbing wasn't by choice. I think it was something that I went to college to be an auto mechanic, went to Bible college, but then there was a time where I didn't think I needed to do anything, and it took a couple uncles to come over and muscle me a little bit. And it was the best thing, or I would have went the wrong direction or caught a lot of hell someplace.
Oh, I don't know about that. So what did you do for fun growing up?
Oh, it was endless.
It was endless.
We basically aimed at the stuff that our parents didn't want us to do. When we were younger, it was don't go to the La Bayona Creek, which at that time had growth and had a mud bottom, and we had BB guns. And I mean, you could spend hours and hours and hours down there taking and shooting at stuff and just having a real good time, swinging across the walk bridge over by Farragut and the junior high school on a rope. I had a boat that we special made out of a gas tank off of a jet aircraft and flattened the bottom, put a transom in it, and we used it just to paddle around under the Sepulveda Bridge because that was the deepest spot. And then high school days, you had Foster Freeze, you had the early days, you had the Clock, you had A&W, you had Dolores's, and then you had the Witch Stand just out of there.
Now, this is when you graduated from grammar school.
Grammar school, yeah, that's 57, and you probably know half the people in the picture.
So tell us where you are.
I'm on the left, second down from the top. The person behind me at the top corner is a general contractor in town, lives on Hubbard, and just finished my kitchen. The person below me is one of the Duber family that originally his dad started the Duber investigation, which used to be over where the Italian restaurant is now in Watsika.
In the Hall building, which was actually the first hospital in town.
And then your buddy right there on the left with hair, Jimmy Chiardi.
Jimmy Chiardi.
And there's a few I can still remember. Carol Hall and Bill Wiles has passed away now, Bob Irwin, but a lot of the guys have passed away at this time, and there's the ones that are still around within a 30-mile radius. There's still contact, and it seems like we're getting more and more as we're getting older into these class reunions, and they're a lot more enjoyable now.
Sure, and so everybody got dressed up for grammar school graduation.
Well, yeah, that's past me.
We all got over that, I guess. Yeah. That's kind of fun. And what was this?
This is the graduation dinner over at Farragut when we graduated. And it's about the same amount of people, Mrs. Haler's class. And it was just one of the things they had in the auditorium over there for your final week was, going to go to junior high and get probably scared to death, going to junior high in those days.
Well, so Jack didn't have that opportunity because when you were here, we didn't have a junior high.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I think Steve ought to tell about playing baseball at Farragut and Overland in that sand lot there, and also about his two uncles taking him hunting and fishing, and because his dad is not a sportsman at all. Oh. So Uncle Jack and Uncle Bob kind of took Steve.
So he went hunting?
Oh, yes. He loved to go pheasant hunting.
And speaking of baseball...
Yeah, 1956 was the first year that the Little League came to Culver City, spring of '56. I was on the Rainiers, and which was a minor league team, but I had never really played baseball too much. And the thing about that I remember, the Malone family had loaned or donated the land to the National Little League, and it took up what is now the library and the county building that's just been turned over to the city.
And Emerald Estates, too.
Yeah. And this basically was my second year team, which would probably be 57. And there's still a few around, which is a shame, as our mascot there on the right in about the middle of the row just passed away last year from cancer. And you probably recognize maybe one of the ones on the bottom towards the right is Tommy Boyd. His dad was one of the managers of one of the big banks in town.
Right.
And we probably know Jimmy more. Jimmy was on the team also.
Sure.
And all the kids, around were from mostly all of Culver City. At that time, they were a little more stringent on the borderlines for the teams, but that was the second year. And the main thing was that living and growing up here, when it was down there on Overland, it was in everybody's sight, and the town just stopped everything for that Little League. I mean, we had parades for opening day.
Yeah, tell me about opening day. That was kind of fun.
Well, they would get the tanks from the Armory, and that would be part of the parade. They would get donations of convertibles from all the different car agencies, which was almost all of Washington Boulevard, going to the east end. And you had the Fortner brothers that had Culver Motors, you had Murphy Buick, you had Milliken Chevrolet, you had Jocelyn Motors, and all these, everybody blended into the community for things like this, and the Fiesta at that time. And you know about the Fiesta.
Sure.
But this is the team Cardinals for 1958, and that was the year we had 21 games and never lost a game. And that created the all-stars that half of the guys in the team were picked from the National League. And as I say, there's a few people in there. One of the people that comes to mind for me, because I used to work when his wife was the mayor of Santa Monica probably 15 years ago, but it was the Derek Shear family. And I believe it was him that was in college with Bill Clinton. And his parents had a magazine. It was a political magazine.
You're right.
I don't know really a lot, about it. But,
no, you're absolutely right.
But he was one of the guys on the team, and I think he was probably class of 64, 65 from Culver High School.
All right, so you had parades for opening day, and then you went on to DeMolay.
Yeah, I was very timid, and I think that's one of the reasons my parents pushed me into DeMolay, and it was probably one of the best things in my life. It would be something that I couldn't sit here and talk to you then. I was more of an introvert, and it was a matter of learning to be and speak in front of people in public, and a lot of good camaraderie with people, and probably some of the more well-known families in Culver City, probably all of their boys were in it with me. You know, the Comstocks, the Calhouns, it's endless, and it's kind of paved the way for me later in life. It's helped me out too.
That's good. And so you were very active, Jack, in...
Well, speaking of his baseball, when we moved on Overland, Shorty Beringhaley lived right next door to us, and he was into the baseball completely. And he's the one that trained Pee Wee Reese in his beginning, what have you, and was a very wonderful neighborhood when you speak about the baseball. But when I was growing up riding bicycles around town, we used to ride our bicycle through Vanny Arbuckle's circle driveway. And
the Plantation Cafe.
Plantation Cafe. And then I had built a trailer and had a little white Spitz dog, and we would ride from there up to see my cousins who lived on Lafayette Place before it was demolished, what have you. And we had our time.
So you put this dog in the back?
Yeah, I'd ride the trailer
you?
all the time.
So Steve, tell me about this lady.
Well, Lucille Ball, she did a lot at the studios even after Desilu had sold the studios, and we've been lucky enough to have a home in Culver City. We bought it from my wife's parents, who bought in the Rancho Higuera district in 1950. And, we've seen a lot of filming and stuff around the neighborhoods to begin with, among other things. But a lot of times, for some reason, when she'd be doing some stuff at the studios, she wouldn't use the studio lot, and she would park in front of the house. And if we saw her, you know, she might say, just ask if it's okay. She was very pleasant, but it was just a real unusual thing to see a lady in her, you know, caliper to be taking and parking on one of the residential streets and just kind of walking over. Maybe she's sneaking over. I don't know. Maybe there was people at the gate knowing she was coming, so she could go in the back gate. Because our street dead into sound stage 15. But this is something that living in Culver City, it was not really, I mean, it's exciting for me, but it wasn't really anything unusual. When the relatives would come out from Missouri to visit, my cousins would, we would get autograph books. And I was the youngest, so they would coax me into going over and approaching everybody that came out of the main entry of MGM with my autograph book and ask them if they're a movie star. And I don't know where the books went or anything. I have a couple autograph things, I think, from Rory Calhoun, but it just amazed me. It didn't matter if the answer was yes or no. It was always yes, I think, and there was always a signature, and then my cousins would run over with their books. But that was a big deal for them when they came out to California, was part of the movie industry in town and wanting to see the movie stars and stuff like that.
Virgie Eskridge told me that she still has her autograph book from sitting at MGM. Now tell us about this photo.
Well, this is I guess this would be the end of 1958, and this is the Culver City's first all-star team. And it was really something because they went out and got us new uniforms, and we got those nice jackets with those special design patches and the new hats. And there's a lot of people in here. Right in the middle is Dennis Fox. He was, I think, a principal at Culver Junior, Culver High School at one time.
Culver City Middle School,
yeah, and
which was a junior high.
We have one down in the bottom row, second from the left. It's Bob Owens. I just met him, and he manages cash and carry. And we hadn't seen each other in years. And up in the left-hand corner, one of the gentlemen there is Fred Ellis, who was everybody probably remembers was from Culver City, was fighting cancer and was in the Ironman triathlon in Hawaii until he passed away. And then we have Gary Tam. His dad was a Culver City fireman. He grew up on Lafayette.
Right.
And it's just so on and so on and so on. All the way to the right next to me is Bill Wiles. His family basically was big in the Thrifty Mart grocery store, you know, drugstore, stuff like that. I think his sister still works at the one at Culver Center, or whatever the new name is now. But
no, it's Culver Center again.
Is it?
Yeah, they gave up.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's just, I hate to say it, but we were having such a good time at them giving us all these things and wining and dining and stuff like that and being entertained that when we came to actually play our first game, we played at the baseball field down next to Hoppyland, where the marina is now, and those kids hadn't been whining and dining. They had been practicing off the films of my pitching and a couple other pitchers, and they had to call the game in the third inning for daylight because, you know, Little League went 6 innings, and they didn't have enough daylight by the time they beat me up in the first innings. So.
Now, speaking of staying in touch with the old friends, that's an old friend of both of ours with you there. Yeah,
I think most of the people. Nolan Burns was the manager of Trader Joe's for years, but he actually, if people really go back, he started with Prano Market, where Film Corps is now, and that was what, you know, eventually was Trader Joe's. And he was also, if you lived around in the area of, we'll say, Duquesne to maybe Overland, he would be your paper boy. Probably in the 50s. He was a paper boy.
Sure.
But he grew up in town. His dad owned L.A. Ditching in later years, and before that his dad had a market, which I don't remember, at the corner where the Tangalacas law office is, over on Braddock and Overland. And it was an open-air market, and I don't know what era that was. I can't remember, so it was quite a ways off. But Nolan and I we're still gearheads with the cars. And we still do a lot of things together. This is
Speaking of cars.
This is the picture of the coupe that you saw my grandson in on an earlier deal, and this was something that Chief Cook and I talked about for years, of a dream of maybe having a Culver City police car, and I set this up in about 4 days for a grand opening over Trader Joe's and the parking structure. And it just happened that when I didn't know that the chief was leaving so soon when he gave us notice, so I just happened to bring it by the day after the car show downtown, and it was his last day. So this worked out really good. So.
Yeah, he kind of slipped out quickly, didn't he?
Yeah, very quickly.
That was amazing.
Very quickly.
I found out recently that he's actually the longest-standing police chief in the state. That nobody has been chief of police for as many years in one place.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize. I know Dale Jones held that for CAO too. Tell me about this.
This is, I can't tell you the name. I think it's McCoy is the artist. I run into him at a car show at the fairgrounds every year, the LA Roadster Show, and this is one of his renditions of Jalopy Night at the Culver Speedway. And
the Culver Speedway was down where Costco is today at
correct.
Walnut and Washington Boulevard.
Yeah. And Jack probably knows a little bit more. I was probably, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 when the family would go down on weekends and stuff and watch the midget races and the jalopy races and stuff. And
as opposed to the other speedway, which was in the area of Victory Park, which is now Carlson Park, for those of us who
We have a
remember.
picture of that in our office.
Do you? I have one too. We'll have to compare.
Yeah.
So you enjoyed going down there?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was young then. That was one of those things with the auction house there also. And, midgets were pretty exciting, but I think I liked the old jalopies that the guys had to climb out of the top, just like the car that I have today, except as, they were coupes and they welded the door shut, and the guys to get in and out would have to go through the soft top hole in it. And that was the ones that I enjoyed, but what does a 6 or 7-year-old kid know? It was a lot of, the big thing was we were down there with the family.
Don Noel, who was a local here, lived in Culver City on Oregon Avenue and went to Hamilton High with me, was one of the drivers of the jalopies. He was quite well known and traveled about many places. But that was a very, very interesting speedway down there and very well attended and so forth. Of course, you have to understand that just down the street where the marina is was originally the LA City dump. So it was kind of interesting to have all of that in the same area. But thank goodness it changed to the local marina.
Jeez. Okay, now, Steve, one of the things that I know about you is you collect everything, and you must be Mr. eBay. But tell us a little bit about some of these things.
Well, the Fiesta button, Nolan Burns had given it to me because I had the single years when we brought the Fiesta back to town. But growing up as a kid, it was actually a week long or even a little bit more, and that's why I collected the badge because it had the date showing of the amount of days. I think
that's a 55, isn't it?
Yeah, 55 or 56.
And it started in 1951.
Yeah, and it's something that growing up here. Every church had a float. Didn't matter what it was. That was, if you were in a youth group, you were building a float. And different organizations, when you saw some of the pictures of Jack and Bob and my dad with the beard, they had the beard growing contest, and they had the barbecues, and they had a horse patrol for the post office. And we have a close friend that worked at Murphy Buick for years, and his dad had the stables down at Fox Hills, and he was in one of the mounted posses, and one of the first ones that I see through all the archives from the middle to late 40s. The Moselle surfboard sticker was basically from Moselle family. Mr. Moselle was a fireman at that time. His oldest son, Ray, would help run the shop, and then Richard would help run it also. They made the local surfboards. The Culver badge down below on the left with the eagle was actually from the Culver Military Academy in Indiana, which basically, I just liked the shape of the logo, but Hal Roach was a graduate from the Military Academy then. Screwdrivers is one of the old car clubs in Culver City, 48 to 1960, and you guys might remember people like Vern Larson, who has Culver Motor Clinic, and they have the Mr. Ziegert that just sold Lou Falcon out on Washington Boulevard for front-end alignment. They all stayed basically in that trade. And the badge is basically a Culver City police badge shape from pre-1936 with the state logo. And that's basically how I had designed the plaques for the side of the police car that we made up in a short time. But we didn't use the state logo. We put Screenland USA and put a silhouette of a camera. But these are just a few of the things. Working for the city was very easy for me to collect stuff for the Historical Society, too. When they tore down all the theaters and stuff, we just boxed stuff up that would have normally been thrown out and just put aside. So.
Yeah, you've been a major help with that.
Well, a lot of people would say I'm a scrounger, and that could be a little bit. But,
well, I'm hoping that your scrounging will be paying off pretty soon, and we'll end up with a place with a lot of display space, because
it would be great.
The city really does need that. That's amazing. Jack, the buses used to run to La Brea, and you used to be able to get off of it at what time?
Well, we would take the green bus to La Brea and then go over into Hollywood. And then if we didn't get back to that intersection by midnight, why, there was no more buses. So we would end up walking home down Washington Boulevard, which was totally no cars. We walked right down the middle of the street. Very interesting.
But then and again, you used to walk to Hamilton High School, too, so I guess that was okay.
We didn't think anything about it in those days. It was better than riding the crowded buses.
Oh, that sounds like fun. So, Steve, are you still staying on eBay and having fun?
Yeah, it's the hard thing is getting eBay time with the wife playing. You know, we share the computer now, and it's probably financially the best thing that could happen that she doesn't give it up that often. But what I do is I'll go in the evenings if she's went to bed early, and I'll print out my stuff and then set up my calendar for the week. So
I want to thank you very much for coming by and visiting with us again. I think we probably have time to do another one another time. But thanks an awful lot, Jack and Steve Newton, and enjoy your retirement.
I'm trying.
Although it sounds like you're pretty busy. And Jack, someday maybe you'll retire.
I think I'll be just like you, Julie.
Okay.
When they come pick me up, that's when I'll retire.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.